Hey, Rock Movers. I cannot wait to introduce you to season 4's guest. This episode is going to be one that I know you're going to want to save because today we're talking about Pilates. Our guest today is Beth Sandlin. She's on a mission to ignite a passion for wellness in people at every age and every stage of life. She specializes in at-home Pilates and Pilates workouts. Beth's approach transcends age, and she focuses on cultivating a mindful connection with your body. Her unique method encourages participants to tune into their energy levels and nurture their nervous system, making each movement an act of self-care and empowerment. She has a really popular YouTube channel that you're going to want to check out with some free online programs. So without further ado, let's jump right into today's episode with Trifecta Pilates founder, Beth Sandlin. Okay, Rock Movers, you heard Beth's bio. Now let's jump in and ask her the question that I know everybody wants to hear. Beth, well, first off, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story with us, and for being willing to help us understand what you do and how you help people move rocks. But the first question that we always ask is, what is the biggest rock that you faced, or rocks, there could be multiple, that you want to share with us today?
I'd be happy to share. Probably one of my first biggest rocks would be my cancer diagnosis at the age of 20, where I was just college student going along, had been feeling pretty wonderful, and within about 2 weeks was feeling pretty horrible and had a really quick diagnosis with acute myeloid leukemia. Had to drop out of college for a semester to undergo treatment in the hospital. And while I was undergoing treatment, it was really a declaration that I made. If I survive this, I just don't want to survive. I really want to thrive and feel good, because for so many people who have cancer, when we're going through it, we just feel horrible. There's a lot of uncertainty, and we're unclear of what lies ahead. And I knew I wanted to go back to feeling amazing. And that was really my motivation for why I changed my career path in college from floral design, of all things, to health education. It brought me to Pilates, and I've now been teaching Pilates for about 20 years and moving with it even longer, because I know that just from that personal experience, if we don't feel good, it's really hard to be happy and find joy in life and just have the energy for even daily activities with our family.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that you kicked cancer's butt. So congratulations and way to go on that. And I worked with the Cancer Society for a few years, and I've been a volunteer. Cancer's definitely been something that has impacted my life in many different ways. Not me personally, but I lost my best friend. I lost my sister-in-law. I don't know anyone that hasn't been impacted by cancer in some form or fashion. Um, but I love that you turned something that was such a heavy rock or challenge or obstacle into a blessing that you now get to help others with. And that is really what this show is all about, is turning our rocks into blessings, and our pain into purpose, all of the things that, the little sayings that we say, right? Our passion, purpose, our path that we use to help others. So going through that journey, like, how was this cancer diagnosis at 20? I mean, that's a really young age, which leukemia is one of the cancers that does affect people much younger. How was that? Like, what did you think at the time? Like, I really want to get into that so we can understand like how you're really serving now and what the big drive is, so people really hear your heart about this, because I feel like this is one of those stories that it's all about heart.
Well, at the time, it was just complete shock
Yeah.
because out of everyone in my family, I was the one who had started exploring different lifestyle changes and only one working out in my family, and started eating much differently than I did growing up. And in fact, when I was in the hospital those first few weeks, my younger sister said to me, "How out of everyone in our family did you get cancer? Because you're making all the healthy choices." And that actually is one of the reasons why I don't make healthy choices just to make healthy choices. I also need to enjoy them because life is simply too short to like just
Yeah.
grudge through and bear it. We want to enjoy what we're doing. And so finding those opportunities, whether it's with movement or other health
Mhm.
choices that we can make alternatives from, it's always about, well, how would this benefit me? And is it going to be beneficial? And am I going to enjoy it? For instance, for a while there, and I know some of you all maybe are already doing this, is like you're gonna have take apple cider vinegar to like detox the body. That was trending for a while. I tried that one time and I was like, no way, I'm not doing that. I don't enjoy it. There's other things that I'm going to focus on
I'm
instead.
with you.
And
My
there's,
husband does that. Apple cider vinegar and cinnamon and lemon. Like,
yeah,
what? Like, oh my gosh, like that's just a heart attack, right? For me. Like, I just don't
exactly.
know.
But some people, they're fine with it and it's part of their everyday routine, and that's their journey. That is not mine. And so that's something that I really like to focus on, is that it all is so personal. Interestingly
Mhm.
enough, when I was going through cancer, my younger sister's mom also was in the hospital for the same cancer diagnosis that I had. And what I realized is that we had the same cancer diagnosis, we started with the same treatment, and our paths started going down much different treatment routes eventually, depending upon how we were responding to the treatment. I had a lot of additional complications, she had other ones. And so our ending points were just different than where we began. What I also realized is how you mentioned earlier, this is not just a me story. Like, I got cancer and I'm a cancer survivor. It impacted my entire family. There's a
Absolutely.
picture that my sister took. We didn't take a lot of pictures, but some pictures were taken. And I was in the hospital room. Everyone else was in the waiting room. And it's just the look on their faces just encapsulate, I'm exhausted, tired. I can't believe this is happening. And it was very real, very raw, very we didn't used to take pictures like that back in like 1999. It was the
Mhm.
smiles and happiness, but I'm so glad she captured it, because it reminds me of, not only was I going through this, but what my family was experiencing. And quite honestly, at that time when I was 20, I had the privilege of being incredibly selfish. I did not have to work and bring in really any revenue. It was just me, myself, and I had support, of course, but I didn't have a husband or young kids at the time. And what I didn't realize until I had children really was how challenging that must have been for my parents to experience. And then
Mm.
fast forward about 10 years after the fact, my dad got cancer, which he did not survive. It was a very aggressive form of brain cancer. And I was in a different relationship now with cancer. And that experience as well reignited me of why I do what I do, both personally and professionally, of making choices that are going to benefit me today and also set me up for success in the future. So a lot of times people ask me the question, Beth, how are you so good, in air quotes, when it comes to eating or exercising? And it's, I actually enjoy doing this. I started small. It was one thing at a time that made sense. And I just slowly layered on. And sometimes things don't make sense anymore. So I'll peel them back. As an example, I used to do a very consistent evening unwind routine. I phased out of that for a little bit. I might cycle back into that. So I really encourage people to evaluate what is working well for them right now. And let's not carry, we can say, those rocks of what used to work well in the past. Sometimes we think, but I used to do this, I used to be able to do that. And we try to replicate what worked really well for us in the past. not really acknowledging we are in such a different life stage. Our time resources is different, our energy level. And when we tune in to the present, that can really help us get present to actually what's going to be beneficial for us right now.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. So right. It is such a personal journey. And I could do the exact same routine that you're doing, a regiment of your life and the same traditional things, and get different results because I'm a different person. And so I think that's the danger when we start comparing our journey, our life, our path to someone else, whether that's success or healing or whatever, just life. We cannot compare ourselves or progress or results to anyone else because we're really not meant to walk their path. Exactly. We can learn. There are things that we can take from them and learn and apply differently. But if something doesn't bring us joy, it's okay to say no. It's okay to change or pivot. And I love that you bring that point to life in such a drastic way as your journey and your path compared to your sister's mom. And that's just so glaringly obvious that we can go down the same situation and handle it differently, and that's okay. It normalizes being different, and I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So why Pilates? What was it about Pilates that you just fell in love with and chose to pursue as a career and a way to give back and help others?
Oh, I love this question because there is something just so unique about the Pilates method. And at the same time, it will feel similar to other types of movement. So, for example, before I got into Pilates, I was going to the gym, doing more traditional workouts. And that's how I started back to my path of full recovery, was more traditional workouts. I didn't even know about Pilates at the time, immediately after cancer. It was about a year and a half later that I came across a Pilates class. And it was a mat Pilates class. And that means that you can simply do it out of your home. You don't need to go to a Pilates studio. And I really enjoyed it. So I continued on Pilates for another year. My teacher
Can I
at the
pause you really
time,
quick? Because
Mhm.
everybody doesn't know, or maybe let's assume not everybody knows what Pilates is. So you just made a great point. There's Pilates studios with equipment, and then there's Pilates that you can do at home. So what's the main difference? And like, let's give them a basic. Sorry, let's give them a backstory first, and then finish your like why you fell in love with it.
I would love to do that because this is actually one of the reasons why I feel like sometimes Pilates isn't as well known, is because for so long it's just been kept in a Pilates studio.
Right.
So in
Yes.
the Pilates studio, there's amazing equipment, reformer, Cadillac, wounded chair. It's all this fun names. A lot of it includes springs. So that's our resistance rather than a traditional weight. Sometimes we'll use this, or most times we'll use springs. It's not that we don't use more traditional weights as well. It's most of the equipment uses spring resistance, which is incredibly dynamic. It can change an exercise easily and make it much more challenging, and at the same time actually make it a little bit easier, which is one of the reasons why the equipment was actually created, not just for more challenge. It's because some of the Pilates mat exercises, especially the intermediate and advanced work, is incredibly challenging and humbling to move with. And so the exercises are replicated on the larger pieces of equipment. And I taught in a Pilates studio for about 7 years. After that point in time, I felt a calling to kind of expand my horizons. I shifted my career path and I focused on Pilates mat classes along with health education. And now I focus still exclusively to this day on Pilates mat, because what I realized is it is simply more convenient to do out of the home. We can do a short 15-minute workout or a longer length class. What I really like exploring with as well is, well, what exercises can we do that are typically on the larger pieces of equipment just on the mat, maybe with the resistance band or a weight or a different piece of small equipment that's honestly much more affordable than a $6,000 reformer. And
Right.
it's much easier to, I would say, take with you. So if you travel a lot, it's really beneficial as well.
I love
And
that because that has been something that I think maybe some people resist because maybe they don't want to go do a gym or they don't want to go to the Pilates studio because it seems overwhelming and hard and kind of like I can't do all that equipment. So I love that you're simplifying it and making it really digestible in little bites for anybody to do, right? I love that. So thank you
yeah.
for that.
And I would say for me, I always hold on to when Pilates felt really awkward and strange because it
Mhm.
definitely did in the beginning, or when I couldn't do certain exercises. Like after cancer, I went down to do a push up and I simply stayed down. Even on my knees, I was not pushing back up because I had really no muscular strength and endurance. In fact, when I went to leave the hospital, they said, "You should be in a wheelchair out." And I resisted and said, "No, I'm going to walk out." Well, I ended up fainting because I, again, had such lack of energy at that time. So I know what it feels like to start new again and again and again, since I've had other rocks in my path that I've had to recover from. And it's one of the reasons why I really like focusing sometimes on shorter classes, because if someone's just getting back into working out, I don't encourage a full length class. Let's start like 10 minutes and see how you are doing with that. And if it's amazing, then tomorrow, maybe you're going to do 15 minutes and we can slowly go up and find that time increment and the exercises that are just right. So I love focusing on foundational level work all the way to once we have the time, the physical strength, the energy to do more challenging exercises as well.
I
And
love
that's
it.
actually circles back to your original question. Why I enjoy Pilates is because it can be so adaptable. And especially done at home, it makes more sense like, oh, I can do a 20-minute workout or I can do something full length. So I love that element of it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So, how are you using this new adaptability, the things that you're doing? Like, what does your life and business look like? And um, just, what is it that you want people to know about the way you're helping them move their rocks?
Is that I encourage people to really focus on what's going to help them and not replicate what worked well for me or for them in the past. So we touched upon this a little bit
Yeah.
earlier on and love to
Yeah.
circle back to that because that's one question I constantly get. What do you do for workouts? What do you do for eating? And I say, honestly, check back with me in 3 months because it's going to be a little bit different. As an example, we're starting to come up to summer. My
Mhm.
summer workout schedule is so different. We are camping, we are exploring, and so I'm relying more on hiking. I'm not coming to the Pilates mat as consistently. If I am, sometimes I'll roll it out at the campsite and do some stretches, but it's not as structured of a workout program that I follow, more of like the academic school year, we can say, because I have children. And I really encourage people to allow for that changes and shifts
Yeah.
because it's the way that they're going to feel more positive about workouts. And the only way, in my frame of reference, and also for people who I work with, that they found that they can be consistent, not holding on
Real
to,
world.
what worked in the past.
Yes, it's real world. We have to live in reality. And I think that's sometimes why so many fail is that they think I'm going to make this decision and this is a forever decision. I can't change that. I can't pivot that. And that's just not real life. Life moves and flows and ebbs and flows. And we have to be able to be flexible, especially if you have kids. We know no day is the same with children, especially teenagers. They're going to have things, activities, life. And if you're so rigid that you can't be flexible, you'll either miss moments, miss opportunities, or you'll quit, right? It's not doable. So I love that you brought that point up because it is so imperative that people are able to flow and move their life and allow themselves, right? That's a gift we get to give ourselves, is the permission to change, to do what's working. So I love, love, love that you shared that. That's so important. So two things that you want people to come away from listening to this or watching this episode today, because a lot of people just listen to it as they're walking, doing dishes, going through the day. So what are the two things that everyone needs to know about you and Pilates?
I think the two things are to start where you are and
Perfect.
really let that be your springboard. And maybe it's starting where you are and you're going to keep on doing what you're doing, or you want to try something a little bit different. If someone's walking, maybe it's a slightly different walking path than
Right.
they just did. If it's maybe trying out a new movement in Pilates or trying Pilates for the first time. And I always encourage, whenever someone tries something new, give it a go more than one time, especially if maybe you are like me, where I did not like to work out when I was young. And for many years, I pushed it away. Like any time I could wiggle out of gym class, I would. It was embarrassing. It just
Yes.
didn't feel good. Like everyone I felt like was doing better than me. I was always coming in last place besides the sit and reach chest. I was pretty good at that sit and reach chest. But it made me just not want to try. And if we just go in with, okay, I'm just going to try and I'm going to allow myself to learn. Because at first you'll hear maybe new names, or we'll be focusing on breathing, and perhaps we aren't mindful of our breathing throughout the day, and that feels like a different experience. And if we just come back, it's going to feel a little bit more familiar next time. It keeps feeling a little bit more familiar, and all of a sudden it feels more comfortable. And we feel so much better about moving and more confident with moving, not only on the mat, but also in everyday life. And that's really something that just takes time to unfold. A lot of people come to Pilates for a good workout, and then what they realize is that energy trickles into the rest of their day, and it becomes so much more than the workout. It's a time and space just for them. And it's really wonderful for their mental health as well. So we can think of a lot of activities that we do. How is it benefiting us on many different levels? And sometimes we may lean towards, I really want a good workout. Other times it may be, I need a reset routine and I just need something a little bit more restorative.
Love that. So I hear so many people, my husband included, working out is his therapy, like mental therapy, emotional therapy. He'll be stressed at work and he's like, okay, I need an extra workout this week. I'm going to go work out. And that's his downtime mentally and emotionally, because he puts his phone away, checks out, because he works from home, and he's a manager of a national manager for a company, and they are so demanding. And then he also helps me with training and sales training and working with some of our clients. And so working out is his literal therapy. And I never got that. I didn't understand that until you get in that habit of doing things over and over and over again. And now it's like your body recognizes it and your mind recognizes it and releases endorphins, which absolutely helps with the stress level and helps, all in all these areas. But I just never got that for the longest time. I'm like, it is so stressful for me to go to the gym. Like you said, I'm uncomfortable. I don't know stuff. I feel like I'm the weakest link in the gym. If something happened, I'd get stuck on the machine and die. Like I just couldn't do it. So I totally appreciate that. If anybody's there, I get it. Working out is definitely still a rock for me. Working on it. But so how can you how do you help people? Is it just individual coaching? Is it group coaching? What all do they need to know about you and how you work with your clients?
I have two main ways in which I work with people. One
Mm-hmm.
is professional development, but I'm going to focus more on for people who have no interest in being a Pilates teacher, nor are they a current Pilates teacher. So for people who maybe have already tried Pilates or they want to give Pilates a go, I really focus on autonomy and the movement experience and
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of different classes that people can take. So most of the sessions I teach are pre-recorded. There's everything from standalone classes, those are found on YouTube, or many of them are found on YouTube at Trifecta Pilates. And then within the membership and app, we not only have additional classes, but there's programs as well. So say that someone's just getting started with Pilates and they really want to start at the beginning to set themselves up for success. Well, I'm going to point them to the Foundations program. And as they may have questions, well, we have live sessions within the membership and app where they can ask me questions either in real time or submit a question. I do work with people one-on-one sometimes, but for a lot of people, they find that there's so many resources available and classes, tutorials as well, that what's already available within the membership and app supports them on their journey, and kind of the supplement of more of the group program that we have of the live sessions is just the right fit. And that's really what's valuable. Is Joseph Pilates wrote a book called Return to Life, which he outlined approximately 34 exercises. There's many more than 34 exercises with just written instructions. And I thought, well, if he wrote a book on this, certainly we can use our current technology and have classes that really feel like they're coming to a studio or coming to a location where it's not just another quick Pilates workout. Now, don't get me wrong, I love to move with, and I still teach like very quick Pilates sessions sometimes, but I also know if someone were coming to me for the first time, that's not where we would begin. We would begin slower with more simple movements, maybe with the shorter session. And so that's why there's so many classes and programs and resources available, because it really is meant to meet people where they are, whether they're brand new into Pilates, or I even have Pilates teachers who are part of the membership and app because they find it a valuable resource for just their personal movement experience.
So good. So many options. So no matter where someone's starting or where they're at now, um, sounds like there's a place for them to jump in and just start right away. So I love that. Well, one of the questions I love to ask is, what is your number one best hack, life hack that is absolutely like changed your life? You know, for some people, they'll tell me, like I started using, I don't know where it's at, I said it somewhere, the Remarkable. So it's a note taker, like it's a digital note taker that you can convert. So you still get to write, you still get the sensory of writing like a pen. It has the pen touch or a pencil, but it converts it to digital files. It's an organizer. I love it. Absolutely best recommendation I ever got. Changed my business. So what is one thing that is absolutely making your life better, a great hack that you want to share with people today?
One that comes to mind is a question, actually, and that's, if I didn't at least try, would I regret this later on? And that's the question that I
Mm.
asked myself when I was looking to transition from my administrator role at the university to opening up Trifecta Pilates. You know, in 10, 20 years, if I didn't at least try now, would I regret it? And then I thought, what example am I giving my kids if I don't at least try? And I'm just older, like I'm asking them to continue to try new things. And I want to keep trying. So that question I keep coming back to.
I
And I
love
wanted
that.
to share one more insight
Yeah.
that's really powerful. And that's following our moods to work out. Because one of the elements where people, I feel like, start to say that they lack motivation is when their body is saying, I need something different. And because there's a lot of toxicity in the exercise realm, fitness realm, of just keep pushing hard, keep going, you know, just
Right.
follow the plan. there's not a lot of tuning in and listening to the body. And the older we get, the more wise we get. And I encourage people to listen to that wisdom. So when sometimes we're not feeling motivated to work out, it's our body saying we need to do something a little bit different. It's similar to intuitive eating, if people are familiar with that. When we tune into that more intuitive nature, then we can shift gears into maybe a session that's more in alignment with our nervous system, our energy level. And for people who I work with, once they do that, and as they continue fostering that, they realize they're enjoying it more. So they're more consistent, they're getting more benefits. And let's also acknowledge that sometimes, many times, rest and recovery is just as important as working out. So not feeling like we always have to keep going on that hamster wheel.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. This is such a gold nugget. Like this is a mic drop moment. So, one of the things that was a huge hurdle for me in 2023 was cortisol and inflammation. And I was perpetuating that cycle by just I'm just going to power through, right? I'm exhausted. I'm having my feet are swelling, like all of these were things that were starting to show up, all these signs and red flags. And my body was screaming at me to pay attention. And I just kept thinking, oh, I just need to push through this, right? I just have to push through and power through. And I had several different people tell me intuitively, instinctually, energetically, psychologically and physically, Karen, you have to rest. Your body is telling you to rest. And I finally just was like, okay, I'm going to give myself permission because I felt like I didn't have the time. I don't have space to rest. And it was like, okay, you need to rest or your body's going to have a catastrophic situation that's going to cause you to rest. You get to choose or not choose, but it's going to happen either way. So giving myself that space to just rest and recover. And it wasn't just for a weekend, it was a long period. I just had to slow down and pull back in a lot of areas. And that intentional decision to listen to my body, to intuitively hear and instinctually know what my body's saying changed so many things. It allowed me to kind of like an arrow, how we pull back and then we can launch forward faster, better, stronger. Um, that was my story in 2023. And that has been so transformational for me because now I can recognize the signs when it's like, okay, you've been pulling some all-nighters or late-nighters and you just need to rest. Like today's just a rest day. And I just do that now instead of just powering through. I really listen to my body and what um my I jokingly call them spidey senses, but my intuitive instincts are telling me my solar plexus. I don't know if you do human design, but my human design is a manifesting generator and I'm a solar um sacral responder, sorry. So whenever my instincts are telling me to slow down and my body is responding to that, I'm just in such alignment, everything just works better. So thank you for sharing that and giving our listeners such a great tip. So it's not a hack that you have to go buy. This is free instinctual knowledge to just listen to your body. And it's not an excuse to be lazy or not go work out when your body is saying, yeah, you need to move, right? Like, don't give yourself an out. This is not that. This is really, really listen. So thank you so much, Beth. You have been so helpful, so valuable today. So many gold nuggets. Um, we'll put all of this in the show notes, but what is the best way? Where do you hang out the most where people can find you on social?
On social, it would have to be Instagram, but I
Okay.
do also have a YouTube channel. So if people
Yes.
are not on Instagram and they're just wanting to try a workout, I say join me on the mat at Trifecta Pilates in either location.
Perfect. Perfect. I love giving that main place because sometimes we're everywhere, but we really don't live in that space. Like I'm on Instagram, but that's not where I hang out the most. So I'm so glad that we know that and people can find you there. It's Trifecta Pilates. And I'll also have that in the show notes, but just know that if you're listening to this and you want to jump over right away, our guest is Beth Sandlin, and you can find her at Trifecta Pilates. Any final words before we sign off?
I would just encourage people to take a moment and appreciate where they are, even if it's not a place where we want to be. There's a lot of learning in those areas that aren't fun to be in, and sometimes those are our most awakened we can be. And it sometimes is immediately, other times it's when we reflect back years later of how transformational it actually was. So just be in that present, and I wish everyone that they have an absolutely amazing and beautiful day.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here, helping us continue to move those rocks. And sometimes we know that those rocks can actually be boulders or even feel like mountains, but just know that you can get through this. You can move them one day, one decision, one choice at a time, but the power is yours. So keep moving those rocks.